What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode. And as the title suggests, we are going to be K-swapping Tony's MR2. So let's check it out. There she is, pretty clean example of a, I believe it's a Rev 3 MR2. It's got Rev 5 spoiler and bits and pieces on it, but it's a pretty clean and tidy example of a MR2. I like it. Looks good. Looks pretty good. Nothing special under there. Obviously, no engine under that one. Under the back, we've got the original engine set up, the 3S GE non-turbo. So he's going to go from a whopping 150, if he even still makes that, horsepower to hopefully upwards of 500. So for anyone who hasn't seen any of the previous stuff, Tony used to have a red K20 coupe, EG coupe, and essentially the motor and gearbox setup out of that is going into this. However, originally we was going to use this manifold turbo and all that jazz, but that's all changing. So you'll see as we go, but basically he's having a new mani, new turbo, inlet manifold, throttle, everything's changing. But the only thing that's staying the same is essentially the original long block and gearbox. The gearbox broke third the last time he was out in the car, and that kind of was the last time the car was actually on the road. So we've refreshed the box, replaced third gear, changed the final drive, checked everything over, everything else is good. So yeah, parts stuff, we've got a whole bin of stuff here. We've got loads of the bits ready to rock and roll already. Let's get the lid off this. There's, let's not worry about them for a minute. Whole stack of Toyota stuff, shifter cables, drive shafts, and in there, then we've got the Speed Factory intercooler and some other stuff in here, turbo manifold, and the power tune digital dash that's going in there. So yeah, first things first, I'm going to jump on and get this thing on the ramp and start draining the fluids out, getting the motor out of this. And I think once the engine bay, everything in there is empty, we are going to roll it outside, give it a wash down, make sure everything is nice and fresh and clean. A few other bits I need to do is I need to pull this shroud off. The wiring on here that it comes with is quite thin, it's not even plumbed up. You put this on after, as you can tell. For anyone who doesn't know, that is a turbo MR2 lid. The non-turbo one you can see is raised. The non-MR2 one is actually just flush with that. And this is, I believe, some sort of fiberglass, whereas the original one's metal. But that's it. So yeah, hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this video. We're going to jump in and get this thing stripped down and start going through everything and start getting the K-series in there. Get this done as quickly as we can. But yeah, quite a lot of fab work. There's going to be a lot of fab work in the whole setup. We're going to put the intercooler in the boot and in the trunk, whatever you want to call it. Exhaust, undecided a little bit, but I think we kind of have an idea of what we're going to do with the exhaust on this one. Yeah, so stay tuned. Let's crack on. Well, there you have it. So the motor assembly is out. We've got a whole bunch of other stuff to get rid of. We're not going to need the fuse box, coolant expansion tank, the original mounts, this firewall stuff. A lot of that is because the exhaust manifold in the original engine is on this side, whereas it's going to be on this side of the motor and when we put the Kswap in there. So all of that can essentially go. We need to pull the shifter cables out of it as well, and the original shifter setup. If I remember correctly, I think I'm going to have to take this off. I have to take all of this off anyway to pull the tank out and change the pump, but I'm going to pull this out. I think that's going to get cut somewhere around there or there, if I remember correctly. And then we're just going to swage the end for the new coolant line. Going to finish doing all of that, getting rid of all of this heat shielding because we're not going to need that either. And I'm going to put the original subframe back on, get it back on its wheels, get it outside so we can jet wash the engine bay. I think essentially this video is going to turn out to be a little bit of a how-to on K-swapping your MR2. I will try and go through the list of bits that you're going to need to do this. As I talk to the camera. Yeah, I'm going to go through probably the list of the things you're going to need to do this conversion if you're planning on doing it yourself. There is quite a bit involved with regards to parts. If you're going to go K20 or 24 naturally aspirated, probably not as much. But if you're planning on turbo, and obviously then you're going to need all of the turbo stuff as well. So I think, yeah, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and take off all the bits that we don't need. I'm going to try and pull that fuel tank out and get the pump assembly done, or at least get it out, see what we need. For that, I think the plan is to try and see if we can modify the cradle to take AN fitting straight off the bat, so we don't have to try and modify that later on as well. But I think once the conversion is done, I think in the final video I'll probably do a how-to. Well, the how-to is going to be as we go along, but the list of parts that you need. Toyota is probably going to be your best bet. Company in the US, they pretty much supply almost everything you need to do this now. Back originally when I did my own one, coming up to 6, maybe 7 years ago, yeah, probably about 7 years ago, there wasn't half as much stuff out on the market as there is now. You could buy mounts, and then there was drive shaft shop that did drive shafts for these if you're using those mounts, and they did various different options on power level. Anyway, so yeah, back then there wasn't as much stuff available as there is now, so you can essentially pretty much buy everything you need from Toyota and just basically get on with it. And as long as you know how to spanner, you're probably going to be okay. It's just a little bit of wiring to tackle. Getting the original clocks to work is another thing as well. Most of that stuff can work. It's just going to be things like speedo and tacho, depending on what variant you've got, will change how it's wired up. In this instance, we're going to put a digi dash straight in, so we're not going to worry about that too much. We're going to leave the original cluster in there for some of the warning lights, indicators, fuel level, stuff like that, but the rest of it will be off the digi dash through the K-Pro. And obviously if you're running a different, if you plan on running something else like a Haltech or whatever, you can buy the Haltech dash as well. So anyway, I'm going to get the car down. I'm going to start getting through the engine bay side of things and getting everything out of it that we don't need. All the gubbins underneath here. Start pulling the tank out. That's a mission on its own on these. So your coolant line's got to come out, so you've got to make sure everything is drained out your coolant lines, otherwise it's just going to be a right mess. But they've got these drain plugs here and here, which makes it quite easy. And then you can also obviously drain the rad from here. We're going to pull the rad out of this as well because we're changing that. Power steering is going to stay, but essentially, yeah, you've got all the handbrake brackets and mechanisms that need to come out. So it's going to be that one, this brace here, the cables, throttle cable is there. These coolant lines or coolant pipes, you can leave them attached and just undo the brackets and then basically just pull them aside. If you're doing it on the ramp, it's a lot easier. If you're doing it on the floor, then it's just going to be a little bit of palaver. But once all of this is out of the way, then the tank does drop out. The only other thing you got to worry about is that the coolant filler neck, the fuel filler neck, sorry, is there. So you gotta get all that off anyway, to take the pipes out. And then you've got the feed pipe as well, which goes in underneath and back there as well. So the best thing you can do is just pull all that out the way. But I'm gonna go through it, and yeah, let's do it. Right, most of the unnecessary bits in the engine bay are out. The only thing I need to do is just the wiring down there. I need to strip all that back and send the stuff that we need inside behind the passenger seat. I've disconnected the pipes for the fuel tank. Everything else around here is out as well, and the firewall protection sort of covers out as well because it was looking pretty rank, but everything needs washing down. Shifter linkages are out. Right, so in order to drop the tank, you need to take this center console out. Right, so that whole long center console and that little sort of compartment there needs to come out, and then shifter cables go through there, so you can just take them out. Shifters out, that needs to come out as well. And obviously, in order to drop the fuel tank out, the wires for it are up here behind the underneath this center trim here. So you need to take the center console out, and then you need to take the ashtray out, and then the center trim. Once you've taken the two screws out, that pretty much unclips. You just got to be real gentle because it is old and fragile, but just pull on each side, and then the whole thing just comes out. You've got one plug there to disconnect, and you've got one there to disconnect, and that's pretty much it. That comes out. There's a little black cover that goes over the top of that. Get rid of that, and then you just got the plugs there that need to come out. Once they're done and you've disconnected everything underneath, obviously the tank can come out. So, but yeah, do not forget to take them out. You won't be able to reach them from underneath, so you have to do this bit before you go yanking the tank out. But that's it. So the center console comes out pretty easily, really. Just a bunch of Phillips screws on either side. Everything's held in with Phillips screws. Just drop them out. You go fold the seats forward to get to the rear ones. But that's it for that. Let's put this down. Cool. So yeah, I'm gonna go up and then I'm gonna have a little tidy up underneath. You can see all the crap that's underneath there. And then we're going to start pulling the tank out and getting that side of things done as well. But yeah, just remember to pull those two pipes off. There's a whole load of other pipes that are attached to it as well. Just make sure everything is off. But you realistically, if you're doing a K-swap, you're going to want to be getting to this stage anyway with everything that you don't need actually removed. There's a fan under here. That's connected to the original fuse box and ECU with a temperature sensor. That's not going to work, so you're going to want to get rid of that. You can wire these fans up if you have a pair, or you can get some. You can wire that up to a switch if you want to. Again, depends on what sort of ECU you run. You can have the ECU control that and then run a temperature sensor under the bonnet as well, under the engine cover, whatever you want to call it as well. So the heater matrix pipes, if you're planning on keeping heat in, just make sure you don't damage those pipes. Easiest thing is just to cut the pipes off, because they would have been on there since probably new and they are a pain in the ass to get off. So yeah, I think we're pretty much done under here. Everything that we don't need is out. There's a couple of little things left. There's wires there that went to the back for something. I think it was the CD changer or something maybe, but he's took all that out anyway. So that just needs to be fed back through the firewall. Again, you need all the firewall covering on the inside out as well. Let me show you. It is a bit of a pain in the ass to take out. I have taken out on mine, but you've got these plastic trims here and same on the other side. And then these lower little sort of cubby hole things like that. Again, they just come off with screws. I think this one's got speakers in it, but they'll be gone. Same on that side, and then same with the side trim on that side, and then this upper trim here needs to come off, and then you can pull this out. A couple of little 10mm holes there, or 10mm bolts need to come out. and then you can get to everything behind there, because you will need to feed the wiring through that's for the ECU and everything into that lower compartment there as well. Cool, man. Right, let's get cracking. I'm going to take it up, get the fuel tank out, get that done, and keep pressing on. Alrighty, well, that is the fuel tank out. Bit of a crappy shape, but it is what it is. Fuel pump sits in there. I'm going to pull that out, but I'm going to modify this hanger here to take AN6 fittings, and then we're going to try and run the lines back where they originally go. This is all the crap that came out of it at the engine bay, and I've got the subframe and everything back up just loosely so I can roll the car outside and wash the engine bay. Underneath here, I'm going to pull the wheels off once it's outside and wash all the arches and everything out as well. I didn't video obviously the subframe going back on, but it would have been a time lapse, so it would have been quite quick anyway. But these subframes are real easy to take out. You've literally got one bolt there, same on the other side, 2 bolts on the ball joint. And if you are used to Hondas where you have to take this off and then try and get that ball joint out, this is way easier. Literally 2 bolts and then the arm just drops down. You've got 2 subframe bolts, one there, and you just go pull this bolt out here, which is for the kind of like the rear track rod end, if you like, the rear toe adjustment. And that's it. And then the subframe just drops down. So this is pretty much what it looks like once the tank is out. As you've seen, all the handbrake mechanism is out, and the coolant lines as well. So obviously allow for space to drop it down, because the coolant lines do run underneath here on the and then obstruct the fuel tank from coming out. And this is pretty much what I was saying about the removing the plugs first, because there is no way you can get your hand up there, and the wires in the car are actually really short, so it's not even like you can bring it down enough to unplug it. So always make sure you do that first. And all the jargon that goes along here as well, your fuel filler pipe and everything like that, make sure that's all off as well. But this is pretty much as stripped as it's going to be, other than tidying a few things up and cleaning everything, getting everything back on. Yeah, so I'm going to get the fuel setup done as well, get that back in. But for now, I'm going to get the car outside. Not now, it's dark now, so it'll be in the morning, but it'll be the same video. So we're gonna pull the car outside and just get everything nice and clean, wash, get all the grease and everything off of all these areas here. And yeah, needs a little bit of attention, but again, it's a little bit dirty and grubby up there. We'll get that all sorted out. A lot more space for activities though once all of that is out. So yeah, anyway, that's on for tomorrow. So I'm gonna pull the car out in the morning and jet wash it down and get it all degreased and cleaned. So I will check back in with you guys in the morning. See you in a bit. All right, well that's all cleaned up and ready for the motor. Much better than it was. A little bit crusty over there, but it is what it is. Age of the car and all that. Yeah, so that's pretty much ready for the engine. Gonna got the motor out, mounts out, ready to rock and roll. Motor's ready to go. I think I'm gonna put the inlet manifold on before it goes in because there's been a slight change of plans. So if you remember, initially I pulled the fuel tank out and we was going to modify the fuel cradle and everything. Anyway, in the meantime, the owner of the car's been down and picked up his old engine and all the other bits and pieces to take back with him, basically. Anyway, so he said we discussed the fuel system on the car, and he was saying about future-proofing it. I said, well, we've got a couple of options. We can only fit AN6 fittings on the original fuel hanger, purely just due to the space that there is up in here. So the space is very marginal, so even an AN6 will be pushing it. So we'll have to space the fuel tank out down a bit by a couple of mil, which would have made it a bit of a pain in the ass for the brackets and everything, but we could have worked our way around it. Anyway, the options were fit the AN6 fittings, and then later on down the line, fit a fuel, like a swell pot and an inline pump and all that stuff. We're gonna ditch all of that. And he's saying, can we just put a fuel cell in the front? So I was like, yep, no problem. Let's do that then. And we'll make some space in the front, fit the fuel cell, and then that's it, done. We know we're good for fuel, we don't have to worry about it. So obviously in the meantime, I've gone ahead and fitted the coolant lines back up, all the handbrake mechanism, everything back up underneath the car as well. So that's done. The fuel cell will be in the front. And then basically through here, there's some small gaps, and we can fit the feed the fuel lines through there, or up there, there's plenty of space. We can fit the fuel lines as well. So that is, yeah, slightly changed the plan that we was going for, but it's no big deal. I think it just makes life a little bit easier. In the meantime, I'm going to crack on and get the engine in. So I wasn't going to put the inlet manifold on because I was going to put the fuel tank back in when the bits turned up and get that all modified, and then meant that I wouldn't have had a lot of access with the inlet manifold on to get to over here. But that's irrelevant now because the fuel filler neck and everything's been removed as well. So we're not going to worry about that. So I can put the inlet manifold back on the engine now. So I'm going to do that, get that ready. I'm going to leave the turbo manifold off till it's in the car. But yeah, these are the mounts for the Kswap. So you've got the Toyota K20 swap mounts, which come with a pack of bolts as well, which is nice. Clutch liner, all that jazz. But yeah, main thing is, oh yeah, don't forget you need the bracket for these shifter cables, because the shifter cables will be routed this way around rather than coming from the back of the gearbox forward. So the cables will need to be routed that way. But anyway, other than that, because of the inlet manifold setup that he's got, we've had to modify the water pump housing and fit a T7 design alternator relocation kit, which eliminates the idler pulley and the tensioner and stuff. So it's tidied up a little bit, which is nice. Other than that, most of it's staying the same. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get that inlet manifold on, and then we can go ahead and basically lower the car down onto it. I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but basically from this angle, there is so much space. On my personal vehicle, I can drop the engine down or lift the car up above the engine with the inlet manifold on, and the turbo manifold and the turbo, everything's still attached, and there's loads of space as long as you take the subframe down, because the subframe does come here, so it does interfere. I have seen many people drop the engines in and out with the subframe still on, as long as you remove the turbo manifold, but honestly, it's just so much easier to pull the subframe off. Anyway, let's crack on and get this motor mounted up and get some pipes and drive shafts and everything hooked up and get moving. There we go, inlet manifold is on. Right, this is what I was saying earlier. The reason you have to cut this down is so it doesn't interfere with the manifold. Normally you'd have the idler pulley and the tensioner here. You can't use that setup with the Ultra Race. You can with the Ultra Street, but not with the Ultra Race. Also, there you see those inlet manifold studs that they supply you. You need to use them because you won't be able to get a bolt past the lower injector bosses that they've put in there. So you have to put the studs there, and basically they give you the nuts with them, but they are a pain in the ass. You'll end up basically getting your little 13mm spanner and making it slimmer so it fits in that gap. But yeah, map sensor's mounted there because the throttle body doesn't have the provision for it. So yeah, I think we are ready to drop it in the car. That mount is ready to rock and roll. I've got the other mount ready down there. That's going to be on the timing chain side. Let's get this motor sat in the bay and get the mounts all set up. I think I'm going to leave the subframe off so the rear mount will stay off for a little bit while I do some bits. But yeah, let's get on with it. Pretty much as simple as that. Although, as you may have noticed, I ended up having to take the throttle body off because it was interfering with these pipes. So I'm gonna have to have a little think about what I'm gonna do with those, but I think more than likely there's loads of space, gonna have to tweak them and move them down a bit. Not really sure, but yeah, pretty simple to get the motor in these once you've got the mount kit. Gearbox mount comes with all the bolts, and so does the timing chain side mount. So we're gonna get up and do the front mount, which sits there. Once I've done that, then I can see exactly where the engine's gonna sit, so I can then organize these pipes as to where I'm gonna put them. Then we're gonna go ahead and just get things mounted up, drive shafts and whatever else. Need to take the hubs off and change the actual hubs, new wheel bearings. Yeah. So let's get this up and get the mount underneath done. Start getting things bolted up. Progress. Okay, right, well, that's the front engine mount mounted up as well. So it's a two-piece, bolts onto the chassis, and then so you've got the other piece that bolts onto the gearbox, and then attached with the bolt in the middle. Got the last couple of bolts under there done. They need to be put on, and I was just sizing up the coolant pipes. So as you can see, that is there, and that's, well, one behind the alternator and two is kind of like basically, if you can see, it's about the same height, so it will make for a very weird looking pipe. I'd almost need like a 180 and then another 180 to go back into it. So I think the plan is to cut the pipe somewhere around here. So I need to remove this one, cut it, and just swage the end, and then we should be able to get a coolant pipe pretty nice and straight down into that. The other one is pretty straightforward. I did have to do exactly the same on my one previously, just to make sure that it basically just goes straight down and into that. Yeah, so that's the underneath done. Let's get back on top and have a look up there. Cool stuff. Right, that's pretty much how the engine's going to sit now with that front mount on. A little bit more space, but again, still going to interfere with the throttle body. So I think, well, I know these pipes need to get moved, so I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do with these. That brace, the braces on there is going to have to go. Probably make a new bracket for it, but in the meantime, I'm going to cut that off and then try and see if I can push the pipes closer to the firewall and go from there. In the meantime, I'm just going to pop you down here. I think I just want to test fit something. Right, there we go. Turbo manifold. Let's pop this on, see what it looks like. Just for a minute. I'm sure everyone is curious, I know I am. Okay. There we go, that's the turbo manifold. Loads of space for activities. I have to think of something about this pipe here because that's going to be for the heater matrix. That one's fine, that one's a little bit close, but we're going to come straight out there with a 180 and go to that one, and same with that. Bear with me. I wasn't going to, but you know what? Why not? Let's quickly just pop this on there and see what it looks like. With a couple of bolts in place. Okay, just a couple of random bolts, but good enough just to hold it in place, see what we're working with. Damn. There we go. And that's it. Pulsar G35 900. On there, looking pretty good. The intercooler is going to be mounted in the boot, so the exhaust is going to run. You know what? I'm not going to ruin the surprise. You have to wait and see on the next video. Essentially, the short of it is the intercooler is going to sit in the boot. Kind of like most of them are. We're not going to go air like charge cooler setup on this. Yeah, so I think that setup's looking pretty good, man. Big boy inlet manifold, big enough turbo. Everything is future proofed for when we want to turn that, when we put the forged motor in and turn the boost up. Yeah, I mean, like all projects, kind of gets out of hand, but yeah, so I'm actually quite pleased with that. I think that's actually a pretty good point, you know, to end this video on. Motor mounted and the turbo and manifold put in there just to see how they look. I think it looks pretty good in my opinion. But what's not to like about a Kswap MR2 with the turbo on it? So yeah, I think we're going to end that video here. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions regarding the swap or anything like that, just pop some comments in the pop some notes in the comments, and I will try and respond with any questions you have. And obviously you can find me on socials as well, SlowDC2 or delanobuilt on Instagram. So if you have any messages you want to send me directly, then I am available on there as well. You've got to bear with me because I am busy, but I will try and get back to all the messages. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we're going to crack on the next one and get more stuff done on the car, start getting the fab work done, seeing where everything's going to sit and wiring, and go from there. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one.